So, what does your shopping list actually say about you? Well, today we're diving into exactly that. We're going to look at what happens to our spending when our income suddenly goes up or, down. And the answer? It reveals a lot more than you might think.
Okay, so let's start with a little story. Actually, two very different stories. First up, we've got Marion Wright. She gets this awesome 28% pay raise, and bam, she goes out and buys a brand new car. On the other hand, you have the Spencer family. They take a pretty big 52% pay cut. But here's the weird part. They keep buying the exact same amount of milk. So, what is going on here?
So yeah, why the huge difference? I mean, why does a change in your paycheck have this massive impact on whether you buy a car, but it barely touches how much milk you buy? Now, you might be thinking, well, one's a luxury, one's not, and you're not wrong. But there's actually a really precise economic tool that measures this exact thing.
And to get to the bottom of this, we've got to crack what I like to call the economic secret code. It's this concept that lets economists measure exactly how our spending habits change.
Okay, so here it is, the big secret. It's called Income Elasticity of Demand. Sounds super fancy, right? But honestly, it's just a way of asking a really simple question. If your income changes, by how much does your demand for something change? That's it. It's just a way to measure how responsive we are.
So how do we actually calculate this? Don't worry, the math is way simpler than it sounds. You literally just take the percentage change in how much people want a product, and you divide it by the percentage change in their income. That's it. It's a simple ratio that spits out one really powerful number.
All right, let's walk through a quick example to see how this works. Let's say incomes across the board go up by 10%. And at the same time, the demand for, let's call it product A, shoots up by 25%. So we just do the math, 25% divided by 10%, and we get our magic number, 2.5. So what does a number like 2.5 actually tell us?
Okay, so we have this number, 2.5. But what does it mean? Well, it turns out that single value is the key. It can basically decode our spending and classify almost everything we buy.
In this table here, this lays it all out perfectly. See, if that number's bigger than 1, like our 2.5, we're talking about a luxury good. Demand is super elastic or responsive. That's Marion's new car. Now, if the number is between 0 and 1, it's a necessity. Demand is inelastic. It doesn't change much. That's the Spencer family's milk. But then you've got this really fascinating third category, when the number is negative. That's something called an inferior good, and we'll get to that in a sec.
So it makes sense, right? Why are luxuries so sensitive to our income? Well, spending on them is what economists call discretionary, which is just a fancy word for optional. It's the first thing we're going to splurge on when we get some extra cash, and it's absolutely the first thing we cut back on when things get tight.
All right, let's talk about that weird third category, the inferior good. This is where things get a little counterintuitive. An inferior good is a product where, as your income goes up, your demand for it actually goes down. Think about it like this. When you finally get that big raise, you might stop buying the cheapest store-brand pasta and switch to something a little nicer. Your demand for that discount pasta went down as your income went up.
Okay, so this whole thing isn't just some neat academic theory. It's actually a super powerful tool that businesses use all the time to predict what we're going to do next. Let's see how this plays out in the world of high-stakes corporate strategy.
Right, so just imagine you're the CEO of a big company for a second. If you know the income elasticity of your products, you basically have a crystal ball. You can start to forecast your sales pretty accurately just by looking at what's happening in the wider economy.
Let's put this to the test. Let's say you're running a company, and you turn on the news and all the experts are saying a recession is on the horizon. Incomes are about to fall. What's your move?
Well, think about it. If your company sells luxury cars, you know that a recession means falling incomes, which means demand for your product is about to tank. You'd probably start planning to cut production, right? But what if you run a low-cost supermarket chain? Those are often inferior goods. You know recession means more customers are coming your way. You might actually start planning to build more stores. It's the exact same economic forecast, but it leads to two completely opposite business strategies. Pretty cool, huh?
Okay, let's look at a real-world example to really drive this home. We're going to look at some data on red meat consumption in a developing economy over a 14-year period. The big question is, what happens to demand for meat as people get richer?
First things first, let's look at income. Between 2001 and 2015, the average income in this country jumped from $12,000 to over $21,000. I mean, that is a huge leap in people's spending power.
Okay, so incomes went way up. What about red meat consumption during that same time? Well, it almost doubled.
It went from 540,000 tons all the way up to 1 million tons. So clearly, as people started earning more, they started buying a lot more meat.
All right, so now we have the two pieces of our puzzle, right? We have a big percentage increase in income, and we have a big percentage increase in demand. We have everything we need to calculate that one magic number. So, what do you think it is? What's the income elasticity of demand for red meat here?
When you run the numbers, you get positive 1.08. And that one simple number tells us everything we need to know about the role of red meat in this particular economy.
Because that number is over 1,000, it tells us something really fascinating. In this developing country, red meat isn't just food. It behaves like a luxury good. It's not a basic everyday necessity. It's more of an aspirational food, something people buy more of as soon as they have the extra cash to do so.
So, let's wrap this all up. What are the big takeaways here? First, income elasticity is just a way to measure how sensitive your spending is to changes in your income. It's that simple. Second, that measurement helps us put goods into 3 buckets: necessities, luxuries, or those quirky inferior goods. And finally, and this is the important part, businesses use this all the time to predict our behavior and plan for big economic shifts.
And that really brings us to our final thought for today. I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. If you got a 10% raise tomorrow, what's the very first luxury you would buy more of? Your answer? Well, that reveals your own personal luxury good. Thanks for joining me.